our Vegas fantasy. It's not what you think. And that's the laugh of Bucky Heard that you just heard, because he hasn't heard that yet. Hey,
Heard.
It's our Vegas fantasy. It's week 10, double digits. We are 5/8 of the way through the football season. There's a little math for you.
Oh,
right?
wow.
How do you like that? I'm Kenny Davidsen.
And I'm Christina Shaw.
And
Hi,
we are
guys.
joined this week by one of the great entertainers in Las Vegas, and the current member of the Righteous Brothers, Mr. Bucky Heard, is with us.
What is going on?
Bucky Heard has been singing with Bill Medley for how many years now?
We're just about to finish up our third year, if you can believe that.
Their third year. They are at Harrah's 3 nights a week on the Strip, and Bucky is a diehard Atlanta Falcons fan.
Yes.
And a diehard fantasy football player. So
Yes,
welcome.
sir.
Thank you for
Well,
joining
thanks,
us.
man. Well, thanks for asking me. I'm excited. Love this. I love what you guys are doing with this show. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yay.
It's awesome to have you here. So how many leagues are you in?
This year, I'm in 6 leagues. And I know Kenny goes, silly little. But yeah, I'm in 6 leagues, and I'm in a couple of big, office buildings. And I'm not counting my dynasty league, which I've been trying to drag you into something like that.
One day,
Yeah.
we may get into that. I don't know. Dynasty. I am not wired for keeper leagues and dynasty leagues. I realize this because I just want to win now. Yeah. And I was talking with, I had a drummer on my show Friday night named Jakubu, who plays with Jakubu Griffin. He plays with Clint Holmes, and he's just an amazing drummer, by the way. But he's a fantasy football player, and I'm in his keeper league, and he understands his league. Like he's patient, and he puts Nick Chubb on his bench, and he puts Cortland Sutton on his bench, and I'm not wired for it. Yeah. Like I want to win now.
Yeah, it's tough. That's the tough thing about dynasty.
Yeah.
When you keep the same team, but it's such a to me. It's a tool that I use to prepare me for all my other fantasy leagues, because you're drafting rookies, so you know who's coming in 2 and 3 deep sometimes in the backfield and wide receivers, and you can keep an eye on them for when other players are starting to stink. For example, the year Odell Beckham Jr. came up, I think it was Brandon Marshall got hurt, and then they tried, and then the guy they brought in behind him started. So I started hearing about this Odell Beckham kid that they had, and I put him on waivers, and the other guy, he played so bad they pulled him out. They plugged in Odell Beckham Jr. and then I've kept him every year.
What are your thoughts on Tajay Sharp?
Oh, you're just going right for the throat right off the bat. Okay, I'm in a league back in Branson, where my home is, with a bunch of guys that we've been playing for 15 years together.
Yeah.
Very competitive, 2-quarterback PPR league, and I needed 6 points. Of course, on the bench, normally my receivers are Tyreek Hill, Alshon Jeffries, I see, the Eagles fan, and Odell Beckham Jr. Those 2 of them were on by last week, so I saw Tajay Sharp there. He had much like Devontae Parker, who was my other play. So between the 2 of them, I got 2 points, and I thought, man, surely he can put up. I needed 6 points, and this is in a half-point a catch PPR league, and needless to say, I fell back one game this week.
I have high hopes for him. I really did. In the beginning of the year, Tajay Sharp, man, he looks sharp, pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah,
pun
intended.
Hey, but I'm just so disappointed at him this year.
Yeah, well, he actually showed some flashes of greatness, just like Devontae Parker last week.
Right? Yeah.
They both had, I think, 7 receptions last week, and then all of a sudden this week, you think, even if they do half that, let's say they do 4 receptions for 70 yards on a bye week when you got guys out, and
I'll take it.
And there's nothing but bones on the wire.
Right.
And that's all I needed. And 0.5, I think. One catch for 0 yards.
Don't you love that?
Oh, he did catch one down the middle of the field, and actually Bill was watching the game with me last night, and he's cheering for me. We're hoping I just need 6 points, and then there's one down the middle of the field. Penalty flag gets called back. So,
do you think there's hope for him in the future? Is my question.
Is there hope for Tajay Sharp?
Yeah.
Man, I have a hard time seeing it, especially since they had such success with the run game.
And Corey Davis.
Yeah.
Well, what about on a different team? I think he's a talented player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. It's just, God, Mariota's just so inconsistent to have
right,
a
that's what I'm
quarterback
saying.
like
I don't
that.
think he's on
and
the
I think
right
that's
team.
the same thing with, I think Devontae Parker could thrive on another team.
Yeah.
Without a
like
doubt.
the Eagles.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So, Bucky.
You guys just picked up Golden Tate?
We did.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt my Alshon Jeffrey. That's what I'm...
I just traded in a league where I'm desperate for a win. I just sent, in a Superflex league, Alshon Jeffrey, Eric Ebron, and Baker Mayfield for Odell Beckham Jr. So I just improved my starting lineup, and I traded my depth away. I already have Jimmy Graham, and I already have Mariota. I have Mariota and Goff as my quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. That's an incredible trade.
I just added Odell to that team. I'm 3-6, and that's the Fournette, Cook, Drake league that I've talked about. My first auction league, and my starting lineup. My first 4 auction picks were Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, Kenyon Drake, and Doug Baldwin. And I had Alshon Jeffrey
at the first part of the year, you're probably like going, "Oh my, I'm just gonna."
Oh, I had a great lineup, but I didn't. I've never done an auction league, and I ran out of money, so I couldn't get T.J. Yeldon. I couldn't get Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get any handcuffs, and I started that league like 0-4.
Yeah.
You know, it was a disaster. But I just traded Odell Beckham Jr. and I'm now 3-6.
That's a great trade
working
on
my way
your
up,
part.
trying to get there. So now the other thing, Bucky and I play in 2 leagues. And I will state this on the air, so to speak. So 2 years ago, first time Bucky and I barely knew each other, and Bucky and I played in week 1, and I beat him. And Bucky and I then played, I believe, in week 10, and I beat him. And then Bucky and I met in the championship, and I beat him.
Beat me.
Yes, I beat him 3
it's
times
just
in a
like
year.
ridiculous.
But this past week, Sunday.
Redemption song.
For the first time in 3 years, Bucky Heard has beaten me.
By barely, by 3 points. And if you look at the lineup, I shouldn't have been close, really. I mean, because you had people on bye this week, and I was like, because Kenny, I wasn't going to say anything. Kenny reached out to me on a text. He goes, "Well, looks like you're probably going to," before we even started.
I did Sunday morning. I wrote him.
He said, "You're probably going to, looks like you might get your first win against me."
Yep.
So I didn't even respond because I didn't want to jinx myself, didn't I? I didn't say anything.
Did not.
Didn't respond. And then I'm sitting there watching the game, and he's got me. I mean, I am beat. And I'm like, he is going to beat me again. And then at the very end of the game, Michael Thomas has that long touchdown to Drew Brees, and I beat him by 3 points.
That's how he beat me. And you know what? My mistake was in that league is I sat Kittle for Jared Cook.
Yeah.
That's why I lost.
No, but you can't even consider that a mistake because any sane person would not have played Kittle with a third string, quarterback coming in, even against anybody, because it's just too much of a question mark.
And I'm playing Kenny Galladay in my flex, and we're going to talk about Kenny Galladay. So,
poor Lions, man.
But I had my best week. 24 leagues. I went 15-9 this week.
Wow,
I had a really good week, but I should have gone 17-7, not including the Cook Kittle one. That would have been 18-6 if I'd won that. But biggest mistakes I made, I sat Calvin Ridley for DJ Moore.
Yeah, I sat him in the league.
Huge mistake. That cost me 1. And that's one of the leagues where I played Oakland's defense, and I lost by 4 points in that league. Then the other league, where I got nipped at the wire last night by 1 point.
You lost by 1?
I lost by less than a point.
I'd rather
and
lose
I was
by
the
30.
third highest score in this league, and I lost by less than a point. I have Brett Maher, the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. He misses the kick, and now they're driving. They're driving at the end of the game, and Prescott can get into the end zone, and Maher kicks an extra point, and I beat him, and Prescott doesn't get
in the end zone,
and I lose by less than a point.
So you and I just hate Lisa.
Were you watching the game?
Oh hell yeah!
He was probably.
Do you know my life yet?
He was probably cussing.
Do you know my life between September and December?
I thought I heard a scream off in the distance.
If you heard a scream from somewhere in South Vegas, it was me going.
I heard you from Nashville. We were in Nashville this weekend, and I had a studio session that Tim Lee, our music director, had booked there. And he goes, "What time do you go to the studio?" And I said, "Anytime except from 12 to 3. The Falcons are on somewhere, and I'll be watching. Other than that, I don't care."
Like Chris with me. Yep. Chris, to Christina's credit, the Eagles played a Sunday morning game in London.
Yes.
And she worked Saturday night. Actually, she went to a concert Saturday night.
I worked.
And worked. Ooh. And got up at 6:30 in the morning to watch her.
Now, be honest, Eagles. Did you just stay up?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I didn't. And I didn't wake up at 6:30. I woke up at 7.
It's not bad.
So that's
not bad. That's dedication
and I rolled out of bed and I just rolled down the stairs and I rolled on the couch and I was like.
and on Sunday afternoons, the routine is that I start my morning at Suncoast for the early games and then I go to Christina's house for the late games, and she was out on her feet. It was so tired. But I was like, you know what? That's dedication right there.
You made it.
6:30 in the morning for these.
I wore my Eagles jersey today just for you, Bucky, because I knew you were going to wear your Falcons jersey. busy, so we had to
You guys have our number too, but Bill's so sick and tired of hearing me talk about the missed catch in the end zone in the championship game last year. I just was sick to my stomach.
I bet.
Y'all had.
I wasn't.
I know you were thrilled.
Yeah. So let's go down the list. So we talked a little bit about the fantasy highs. Michael Thomas, we just talked about. He had a big time week.
Oh God.
And the one team I have Maher that lost the kick. I have Michael Thomas on that team. I have Melvin Gordon on that team. I have Juju Smith-Schuster on that team. I scored 155 and lost by half a point. Alvin, do you have any Alvin Kamara this year?
Yes, I haven't been in. We have a spinoff of the big money league I was telling you about. We have a spinoff in that league,
right?
And I drafted Kamara first, and of course he's been doing well. Then Ingram came back, and I'm like, here we go. It's about to. And then this last week, then he really was a stud this week for us. So.
Ultimately, he's been more effective than Ingram anyway.
Oh,
so
yeah. He's very Tyreek Hill-ish. As far as he'll
catching.
Put up a 30 or an 8. It seems like, but
right.
Do you have Tyreek Hill in any leagues?
I have Tyreek Hill in one league.
It's been kind of frustrating because you can't not play him.
He's
one of those players. Like Jeffries is like that too. It's like he's going to put up a 25, and eventually sometimes he'll put up a 7 or an 8. But you just can't not play him.
Tyreek Hill is Deshaun Jackson like 4 years ago. He's
that's a great
102
analogy.
Touchdowns, or he is 30 and not much.
Right.
But the thing is, in Kansas City, they have Kelsey and they have
so many weapons.
And Hunt, and we're just about to talk about Kareem Hunt. What about how good has Kareem Hunt been? Remember week 1 when we were just a little bit worried that Kareem Hunt wasn't going to be a big factor in the offense? Since then, double digits every single week.
He scored in 8 consecutive games.
Oh my Lord,
that's crazy, man.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite players. And he was late first round. And I wanted him. I didn't get a lot of late first round picks, but I wanted him very badly this year. I just, they talked about last year. You remember we had that 4-week lull last year, and people got worried about him. But man, that guy is so good.
Especially in a PPR league too, because he does catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. And I think we picked him up at number 8 in the first round in a 12-team league.
Yeah. Great stuff.
He was sitting there. I'm like.
Yeah,
Kamara at 8. Yeah,
unbelievable. Do you got anybody have Christian McCaffrey? What a week he had. You don't have him?
I don't. But as I was, watching the games, I kept looking. Am I going against him? Am I going? And I wasn't. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's good.
I had him and Gordon as my 1-2 punch in one league, and ended up getting. I'm blank. From Indianapolis, Mac.
Marlon Mack. Yeah,
and I'm getting him, and he started playing well. So then I ended up trading. And got Antonio Brown, and I let go of Melvin Gordon, and then I thought I made a mistake because McCaffrey had a couple weeks and then he just blew up yesterday.
He's terrific. And we were talking on our way here, Bucky. O.J. Howard. O.J. Howard was a little off the radar at the beginning of the year. Man, is in a year where we've talked about tight end being an absolute cesspool. That is the word. The tight ends are a cesspool this year. But O.J. Howard, man, he's killing it.
Yeah, like Ricky Seals Jones, who I was stuck with. That's who I've been playing.
Cesspool Uzama of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Uzama. I love it.
Jordan Cesspool Reed. Rob Cesspool Gronkowski.
Oh, dude. Everybody was like all hot on him this year. I'm like, man. He just is injured too much.
I know. He's
like
about
Gates
that all
in his
the
last
time.
year. It's like
man.
should have taken it one year too many, I think.
Yeah. And we should also mention we have a weekly segment because Ken Bulkey is our diehard Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. What is this week's Fitzmagic report? How did he do? He had a good thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. He had a good week this week. He really did. Well, throws an early interception. He got nervous and then 4 touchdowns after that. So
for the first,
there you go.
First
Fitzmagic, alive and well in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
For one game. We'll see if it's another one coming up. He'll be fine? All right. You said that last time, and then he got benched.
And Jameis was great.
There you go.
Well, from a fantasy standpoint, I was telling Kenny, I'm in a 2-quarterback league where you play team quarterbacks. So, so if you got Flacco and Lamar Jackson comes in, you get points for him too. And so from that standpoint, between the two of them, that's a pretty solid play every week. So.
That's a great play. And now, for the other side of the coin, we ask, who crapped the bed? Did you crap the bed? Did I crap the bed? Did Bucky crap the bed? We all want to know who crapped the bed. Crap the bed!
Gronk didn't get out of bed this week.
Gronk did not get out of bed this week. You know who didn't get out of bed this week from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Mike Evans did not get out of bed.
Kerryon Johnson didn't get out of bed.
Kerryon Johnson. Well, I think Matt Patricia keeps him strapped to the bed.
Oh,
jeez,
man.
Right?
Very frustrating to have somebody like that who you see. It seems like everybody in America, and especially fantasy owners who drafted him late, thinking you're going to get a number one before the end of the year's out, to see him getting taken over and not given the opportunities that he should. If they put the ball in that guy's hand, he makes plays.
Well, now the Detroit offense is worrisome.
10 sacks, dude. We talked.
Well,
third in NFL history.
And they're in a bad spot in Minnesota. Minnesota needs the game. We know this. But you trade Golden Tate away.
Makes no sense.
And, and now Riddick comes back. He takes carries away from Kerryon Johnson. Yeah. What are you doing
Makes no
in
sense.
Detroit?
They don't know.
Right?
I don't understand this thing. When I understand bringing backs in to spell a back, give them a rest and everything, kind of like what they did last night with Derrick Henry and Dion Lewis. But nowadays they just don't give running backs a chance to get into any kind of rhythm. I mean, I think a back has to start. You get a rhythm going, and then they pull you out for 4 or 5 plays and put you back in, and it's like I've always had a problem with that.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Detroit offense, Kenny Golladay for the 3rd straight week has crapped the bed. What the hell do you do now if you have Kenny Golladay?
Oh, good grief!
Are you playing him now? What are you doing?
I'm still playing him. I can't sit him. I think he's going to have more opportunities now because Tate isn't in. I don't know what happened this week, but the last 3 games he's had single-digit fantasy points, and it's so frustrating because he was so good in the beginning of the year. He's a dynamic player. I really like him. I think maybe because Tate's not in, maybe their offense has to shift around a little bit. So
well, it doesn't help when your quarterback's on his back 10 times.
Plus, that too.
Plus, I didn't see a stat on him how many times he was hurried. Which I'm sure
Minnesota destroyed him this week.
It's just really so you can't. It's hard to gauge it on that. I think with Golladay, I would play matchups because he's bound to have his big games. He's bound to have them. But it's like again, it's just scary to play somebody like that with such inconsistency on a team that has an offensive line that's pathetic.
And they're in Chicago this week.
Oh, I wouldn't play any Detroit. Nobody.
I'd be worried about any.
So you're going to sit Marvin Jones. You're going to sit. Kenny
If
Golladay.
I had better options, I would. I would be tempted to start Corey Davis over Marvin Jones this week. That's how.
Wow, that's ballsy.
I wouldn't do it. Especially with all the buys too. I mean, there's a lot of. How many buys are there this week?
There's only 4 teams this week,
4.
But still, I get the point. I have options in my Golladay leagues, but one I'm going to have a decision with will be Golladay or Doug Baldwin. That's going to be a tough one.
I'll still say Golladay.
Yeah. I don't know. Golladay the last 3 weeks has been a no-show, and this week was considerably alarming. We talked about Alvin Kamara because how good he was. Mark Ingram crapped the bed big time this week, right? Big time.
Who would have seen that coming?
Oh no! Now they are in Cincinnati this week. Cincinnati, we know they're crappy on defense. Is it a start All Saints week, or are we doing matchups? What are we doing here? Are you playing Ingram, Chris? If you have him,
he's only had 1 great game since he came back.
I agree. And, it all boils down to okay. Let me ask you this. Let me throw this out hypothetically: Ingram or Breida?
Ingram. Well, I'm not playing Breida right now until I get an injury report that says he's okay.
But if he's playing,
if it's matchups, I would play Breida because Breida's playing the Giants.
That's what I was looking at.
And literally, you and I could run on the Giants. The Giants are, the 3 of us together. Come on, 100 yards apiece against the New York Giants. Let me tell you. And I speak as a quasi-Giant fan.
I picked up San Francisco's defense in every league I could this week, or at least put in for them, just because of the sack potential.
That is a legitimate question about Breida versus Ingram because Breida's got a great matchup. I just don't trust Breida right now because of the. Because how banged up he is.
Yeah.
But it's a legit question, absolutely.
And Ingram's not banged up, and they're probably still going to share, but you just don't know how much they're going to share, and Kamara's just so good.
Well, I think Breida will be carrying the rock more now since, how do you pronounce that guy's name? Is it Mostert?
Rock Martin? Oh, no, Raheem Mostert.
Mozart.
Well,
I call him Mozart.
Yes, we have a ceremony later on for Raheem Mostert that we have to perform at the end of the show.
Well, we'll talk about that
We'll talk about that. It's a bit of it's a weekly ceremony that we're going to have.
Good.
And
looking forward to it.
It's hard to put a quarterback of a team that won who crapped the bed. But Kirk Cousins, from a fantasy standpoint, crapped the bed this week. Kirk Cousins killed me in 2 leagues. Killed Christina in a league.
Killed
this
me.
week.
He's got a bye this week, so hopefully they can regroup. But I mean, it really doesn't look good for Washington all in all. I mean, not even from a fantasy standpoint, but from
now they're down 3 starters. They lost Richardson.
Yep.
They lost
Washington.
I'm talking Washington.
Not the Vikings.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins. Just a bad habit. Sorry.
Right,
yeah. Of course, I'm still
Washington
excited that my
too.
Falcons owned Washington like they did. So sorry.
Yeah, no, but I think the thing with Kirk Cousins is if one of his receivers are out, if Diggs or Thielen are out, you downgrade Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I agree.
He needs Diggs. And Thielen, actually, we could put Thielen on this list this week. The first week of Thielen's year, no 100 yards. He didn't even get 30 yards this week receiving. But they didn't need him. You know who showed up for Minnesota Vikings?
Dalvin
Cook.
Yes, he did.
yeah.
And he was sitting on your bench against me.
Sitting
too.
on my bench in every league that I have him, because why the heck would I start a guy that's only supposed to play 15 plays?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
on
goes
my
off.
bench too.
Right?
The Vikings defense was great too. I mean, Kirk Cousins didn't even have to do anything because the Vikings D was so good.
Yeah.
Well, defense wins championships, according to an old phrase.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, well, look at Dilfer wasn't a good quarterback at all.
Well, even at the Super Bowl last year, neither of them had a defense.
Exactly.
The Eagles had a better offense, and they won it. So, and
we sure could have used the defense against New England.
Oh, jeez.
I
was going to be nice. I wasn't going to bring
Glad you
up
guys
the 28-3.
Oh.
Come on. I didn't want to break
I
your
wept
heart.
I wept
you
like a
came all
baby.
this way just to be on the show. I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
I'll do it.
He locked the door from the outside so I can't leave. Now we got him in here. Let's tear him down.
So on the heels of Who Crapped the Bed, we have players that we list that we're kind of like, what the hell did we do with? What the hell? We've put Kenyon Drake on this list 3 times this year. What the hell do you do with Kenyon Drake?
I think we're getting to the point where we can't play any Miami players.
I'm with you.
Is that it?
I think that's it. I think everybody
all
just
Dolphins.
sitting everyone.
Well, there's nobody you can depend on that team.
No.
But
from week to week.
How are they winning games?
Defense.
Except
Except when they play Houston, because Houston gashed them. But look, you're playing the Jets, and the Jets can't score on me. So it's like, I mean, forget it.
He had 3
Miami's in
carries.
Green Bay this week.
How does he? But here's the thing: they're in Green Bay this week, so there's going to be points in this week. I'm playing Kenyon Drake this week. I'm starting him.
I'm starting him. I'm in my dynasty league. I've got I don't have a whole lot of choices. It's him or Jamal Williams.
No, well, that's an easy one.
Or and I had Mozart.
That's what I call
I
it.
had him for a while,
Mozart.
and then and then I had Bilal Powell. He's out, so
Yeah.
Bilal Powell.
I have John Chopin in a league. And,
So what are you thinking about this month?
I have Tom Beethoven in a league. Sorry. Anyway.
Let me ask y'all a question. What do you think about, and would you start Elijah McGuire this week as a deep sleeper?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's catching a lot of passes out of the backfield. His first game back, I think he had 6 or 7 receptions last week.
He
or
did.
something.
Now here's the issue.
Put up
though.
8 points, which
I think that a lot of these bad offensive teams are game flow dependent, so you got to see who their opponent is. The Jets are playing the Bills this week. There's going to be no points in this game.
Yeah.
Who's going to score? Really?
That's what I mean.
You know who's going to score? The Bills defense is going to score, and the Jets defense is going to score.
Yeah.
Right? Darnold's going to score? No. I don't even know who's starting for Buffalo. If it's going
and
to
what
be Derek
receivers
Anderson,
they're
it's
even
gonna
playing for the Jets
right.
this week.
So I don't know if I'm playing any Jets this week, and I don't know if I'm playing. If you're playing any Bills other than LaShawn McCoy, and even LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, we've been forced to keep playing him. We got him. We thought we stole him in one of my leagues, and he is just. If I was the Bills, I would go ahead and pull Shady and just play Chris out. Keep him healthy to trade and put in Chris Ivory. They're not going to do anything right now.
Yeah. But I would not. I don't know if I would play Elijah McGuire this week, and then he's on bye next week. But I think I like him for the rest of the season. I like the role because he's got the Bilal Powell role. Say the name.
Bilal Powell.
That Bilal Powell. What's here's our other favorite name from the Rams.
Cooper Cup.
My wife used to play fantasy, and she would draft teams just based on their name. Like her favorite was, remember this name? Tim Biakapatuka.
Oh my Lord.
Wow.
Biakapatuka. She just loves saying it.
Yeah, that's me with Bilal Powell.
Yeah, Christina loves Bilal Powell.
Just love it. Love the name. And Cooper Cup.
And Kike Kute.
Kiki, do you love me?
Right.
Okay, sorry.
What the hell do you do with? Speaking of the Jets, what the hell do you do with Isaiah Crowell? I mean, if is he a matchup play? Do you just sit him on your bench? Do you get rid of him? Right?
He should have had a great game this week against
Against Miami.
Again,
right?
yeah. And he crapped the bed.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. There's no. Who does anybody even know? I think Jermaine Kearse is the only healthy Jet playing right now? I mean,
He's
Robbie
playing
Anderson, did he
horrible,
play this
too.
week?
Robbie Anderson suited up. He didn't do much,
And
but nobody in the Jets. did.
Right.
So most of the receivers are
Quincy
banged up or
Newman
hurt.
was back. He played.
He's the best man on that team.
He is, and I had him and dropped him. But you got to develop chemistry, and when you got, when you've got three receivers, and I mean, I don't think all three of them maybe have played together yet. I mean, because Anunwa got hurt, and then Anderson got hurt, and Anunwa came back, and then Curse was hurt the first part of the year. Now he's back.
Yeah.
So what kind of chemistry with a rookie quarterback can you develop? I don't trust any of the Jets either.
They do play the Bills this week, as
That's
we were
the only.
saying. So
That's why I think Elijah McGuire is a sneaky little pick.
See, I don't want anybody in games like that. I think when you're looking at a 9-6 game.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody. It's game flow.
how
If
about
the
the
Jets
kicker?
were playing right, you want the kicker. You want Jason Myers.
Yeah.
Right. If the Jets were playing Green Bay, or if the Jets play the Patriots, I would play Jets because the Jets are going to score
Trash
in a game like
time.
that because there's going to be up and down play. But in a game like this where nobody's going to score, you saw it with Miami. Game flow games like this, you don't want players in these games. You can just you fade them. Waiver wire for week 10. If this guy is still on waivers, he's not on waivers in any of my leagues anymore because I stashed this guy in 9 out of 24 leagues. Ooh. Marquez Valdez Scantling. MVS. 100 yards against the New England Patriots this week for the Green Bay Packers. Geronimo Allison has a long-term groin injury, might be out for the season. Mm-hmm. If this guy is on waivers, he will not be on waivers as of Wednesday morning. Go get this guy.
Yep.
Look, I've been looking at Green Bay wide receivers all year. Obviously, I have Devontae Adams where I can get him, but I picked up I drafted Geronimo Allison a lot. I had him too. You want
leagues.
a wide receiver on the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
You want the number 2 guy, whoever the number 2 guy is, whoever's going to be the new Jordy Nelson there. This year it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's developed.
It's just kind of sad because you don't know where the ball is going, and then they have Cobb, and then they had Allison, and there's so many great receivers, and you get to that
Jimmy
point where
Graham's going to get his catches.
Jimmy Graham gets his.
Equanimeous St. Brown.
Right.
And
there's so many. There's so many, but Cobb's been crap in the bed.
That being said, Randall Cobb, just from the eye test, he looks shot.
Yeah,
he looks absolutely shot. I dropped him very early on.
He's sitting on the top of every waiver wire that I look at. Just about.
He really is.
Yep.
He's on waivers in a lot of leagues, and he belongs on waivers. I think he'll. You know what?
12-2, 14-3.
He's had one good game, and I think he'll have another good game again. And again, the one good game he had, he broke an 80-yard touchdown in that game. Yeah. Other than that, he has done nothing.
I don't understand.
And he was on the trade block in August, so the Packers know he's shot.
Yeah, he's just probably had one too many injuries. You think?
Yeah,
I mean,
he
doesn't have that separation he used to have.
No, he's done. Yeah. So, how about Adam Humphries? Let's ask Mr. Bulky. Is he the number 2 receiver in Tampa now? No. Okay, he's not.
Godwin.
Still Godwin?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You still rather have Godwin over Adam Humphries? Okay.
Here's an interesting stat on him, though.
Okay.
He's averaging more points per game since week 4 than either Galladay, Josh Gordon, or Baldwin.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's Tampa, and you don't know, other than Evans, and Evans had a bad week, but Evans, that's not going to happen again. But
that was an anomaly.
Yeah, it's totally an anomaly. But I mean, one catch out of 10. I mean, come on, that's never going to happen. But you've got Deshaun, you've got Godwin, you've got Humphries.
So many.
Look, Evans, and I think OJ Howard. I would plug those guys every single week and play them. After that, it's mix and match. So, who else is on waivers? Now, we talked about Mike Davis before. Chris Carson dealing with a hip injury. Chris Carson cannot.
Did you just say Crip Carson?
I was going to say Crip Carson. Crip Carson with a hip injury.
I wasn't sure if that was a Freudian
Carson.
slip or...
Ouch. Did you say that? Cripple Carson.
Say that 5 times.
That's mean.
No, it's the
but
truth.
He's got a hip injury.
He tried to play through it, and he he injured it more. So they need to sit him out at least a couple games to see what's going on with him.
And Seattle gives their number 1 running back 22 carries. We talk about getting running backs into a rhythm. Well, there's one team that does that in this league this year is the Seattle Seahawks.
Right.
So you want Mike Davis.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. And
Number
they're playing
1.
the Rams this week. I don't care. You still want. It's not a good matchup.
What do you think about? What are your thoughts on Duke Johnson?
Yeah, that's another one.
Absolutely. If he's on waivers, yeah. Well, now that they have a new offensive coordinator
that's what they said.
Figured it out.
Yes, exactly. How do you not use a guy like that? And
Right.
they brought him in, and what he had how many catches he saw? But
he
it was
had a monster
lot.
this week.
And I also, here's another little sneaky one that I was, and you got to hand it to Belichick. That guy takes players off other teams like Chris Hogan, third receiver for Buffalo, and brings him in, makes a star out of him. Amendola, different players he's done it with over. But Cordell Patterson coming in when James White was hurt for those few plays, had a touchdown. They're trying to get the ball in his hand more and more. Is he somebody you consider picking up?
The word is Michelle's going to play this week. Like that's an early word.
Well, if he plays, then it goes back to
me. If Michelle plays, where's Cordarrelle going to get the carries?
Yeah.
Now, if Michelle's out, Cordarrelle's viable. He just became running back eligible in ESPN. He's not running back eligible in Yahoo yet.
Okay.
But
ESPN he would have to be running back eligible. In order to take him.
So I mean, look, you have to listen. You have to keep an eye with him. But I'm not rushing to the waiver wire to get him with Michelle back. That's all dependent on the health of the other players.
I think the two picks this week, like you said, Mike Davis, for sure.
Yeah.
And then also, chances are Duke Johnson. Some folks may have dropped him, which you can't blame them.
Nope.
So if he's out there, I would grab him too.
I think Duke Johnson's a great pickup this week, absolutely. And what happens on waivers day is, you're picking up all your players, and then at midnight, players become free agents that haven't been picked up, and we have what we like to call our after midnight specials.
Oh.
And this week, our after midnight special is a Philadelphia Eagle. And I'll leave it to Christina.
Josh Adams.
Josh Adams after midnight.
Will he be there in the morning? Or will he still be on the waiver wire as a free agent?
Yes. Josh Adams, he won't betray you.
He might.
He might betray you, but he might be good for your team. Pick up Josh Adams after midnight, because nobody else will.
Dun-dun-dun-dun. 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 Dun-dun-dun-dun.
I just became a stadium organist.
You can change the name of your team to the Adams family.
Now seriously, if Josh Adams sneaks through waivers tonight, he was sneaky in the last game they played in London. He was getting a lot of carries.
I agree. And I had forgotten because I'd made myself a note. Now I'm looking to see if he's on the wire anywhere.
Well, this is why you came in today.
I'm getting educated.
Things, right? Yeah. So
I can learn.
Yeah. See, there you go.
He's still a risky play though.
He is, but he's a nice.
I wouldn't start him.
No, but he's a nice stash. If you got room on your bench,
I wouldn't start him this week. But if I would pick him up, I put him on your bench and see how they use him against the Cowboys. If he becomes the guy, well, then you have a running back.
Of course.
And we all know this.
You've got somebody. So, everybody's got a spot on their waiver wire that they can dump for somebody like that who they've got an opportunity.
The whole thing with fantasy football, you can tell how good your team is when you look at your running backs.
Oh.
And if your running backs are strong, because you can very largely mix and match wide receivers, but running backs, you can't find running backs. This is why they're drafted early, and you've got to find them on the waiver wire. So that's why you have to look at a guy like Josh Adams. You don't play him for first week, but you put him on your bench. That's why I was imploring people, stash Mike Adams. I'm imploring people now, stash Nyheim Hines. Stash him, because Marlon Mack doesn't stay healthy. Nyheim Hines has proven when Marlon Mack is not healthy that he's the guy in the PPR league that he can give you running back one numbers. Stash him if he's available. That's how you win, is you find those late running backs.
Yep, he's on the wire.
And he's on the wire. See? So there you go.
I have also. Well, I feel like every week they're saying that Sproles might be back. They're saying it again. He might be back this week, but he hasn't practiced since week 2, and he's played in less than 4 games in the last 2 years.
And he's 90 years old.
He's 90 years old.
He's 90 years old. Yes.
But if he comes back, if he does come back, though, he is taking away some targets from.
Yes, but is he taking it from Clement and Smallwood? You don't know.
They're going to split it 4 ways. Right. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And fantasy owners are going to be smashing their head against the wall.
Yeah. I dropped Smallwood in a lot of leagues this week. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the Eagle backfield. And who got released today? Amir Abdullah is now a free agent, and he's going to sign somewhere.
Ooh.
You can count on it.
I when he went to Detroit, I have been so impressed at the short bursts of greatness that you see. His side-to-side lateral movement, his vision is incredible. I think he's going to really help some running team somewhere wherever he goes.
I think so too. I would say actually
Where do you think's a good landing
49ers.
spot? Yeah, me too, man.
49ers because
Without a doubt.
Well, because Mozart is gone. Because Breida is banged up and Alfred Morris is 95 years old. So, yeah. So,
I have another After Midnight.
Oh, we have another After Midnight, an After Midnight special. It's After Midnight.
As Bucky had said earlier, McGuire.
Elijah McGuire, After Midnight special.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Will he be there in the morning for you, Christina?
I think he will.
Elijah.
Elijah McGuire, After Midnight. Yeah, no, he's if he's sitting there, he might sneak through. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah, he's a plug-in. I mean, I think this week is a flex. If you're needing somebody and you can afford to maybe have somebody that's going to put up an 8.
Yep.
If that's better than starting, I think a Gore or maybe even a Breida at this point if he's banged up or injured. If you got guys and you need somebody and he's there, I say pick him up just for the PPR potential.
The Breida thing is tough this week because they're playing Monday Night Football and they're playing the Giants. The Giants have been gashed on the ground. You want to play a 49er running back this week, and you don't want to play Alfred Morris because he's 95 years old. Yeah. You want to play Breida, but you got to watch the injury report with him. If you get any kind of injury report that he's improving, if he's doing anything, you might need to play him because they're playing the Giants. I mean, like I said, the three of us, 100 yards apiece against the Giants. Come on, right now. We can do this. Exactly. News and injuries this week. So, Sunday was a rough day because the Patriots played Sunday Night Football. Word came out about 8:30 in the morning Pacific Coast time, and it was daylight savings and the whole thing. So of course I'm up at 8:30 on Sunday because I got to do all my start sits, and I read about Adam Schefter, who is the premier NFL reporter. He's the guy you follow on Twitter. He's the guy you want alerts from. He's the guy that says on Sunday that Gronk and Michelle are unlikely to play Sunday night. If he says that, I would put the chances at 80 to 85% that they're not suiting up. Sure enough, they didn't suit up. So that's one thing. Also, follow Adam Schefter. But two, now he's also the one that says Sony Michel's coming back on Sunday.
Yes.
He has not said a word about Gronk. If you have Gronk, it's time for Plan B, I think. Because not only is he hurt, but he's not a bad year.
Oh yeah, he's So who's on the waiver wire right now at tight end that you might
exactly
consider?
The cesspool that is tight end. Well, there's Chris Cesspool Herndon from the Jets. He's not
bad.
About
Vernon Davis?
That's a good
one.
What'd
you say?
Vernon Davis. That's a good one.
Sneaky.
That's very sneaky because Jordan Reed hasn't been good either. That's very sneaky.
Well, Jordan Reed's caught a few passes, but they've all been for
5 yards.
For negative yardage. I mean, there's really nobody. If you look up and down the list, I mean, Nick Vannett.
No.
Who?
Yeah, no. Right.
Seattle.
Yeah.
I mean, because I thought that I played. My brain is not working today. The guy that just came off of injured reserve that they started a week before this, and he had a great game. And tight end
team?
Seattle.
Oh, Ed Dickson.
Ed
Dickson.
And then he had one good week.
Yeah.
Plugged him in this week, and my team with Ricky Cesspool Jones, and got a 0 this week. And Vannett had an okay game.
Yeah, he did.
So you don't think he's worth picking up? Think that was a fluke?
I think that's a fluke. If you don't have one of those big 12 tight ends, you're screwed this year. But Chris Herndon from the Jets, that's the guy. That's the guy that's deep. That he's getting more snaps every single week. He's getting more targets every single week. He is developing into one of Sam Darnold's favorite targets. They don't throw the ball much anyway.
Yeah.
It's a rough year for the Jets, but, he's actually not bad if you're desperate for a tight end. Now, in one league, I started Hayden Hurst. That's how desperate I was, and Hayden Hurst is not developed yet. He's a Baltimore guy. But Baltimore's got too many tight ends. They're starting 3 tight ends in Baltimore.
I know.
So you can't rely on him. But Chris Herndon is like, Ricky Seals-Jones, he may have a good week. Like, this week is a good week for Ricky Seals-Jones because they're in Kansas City. Yeah. Kansas City can't stop me. So, right?
They're like the Falcons were a few years ago when they just put all kinds of points. And
yeah.
Anybody that plays is going to be 35 to 40 every week.
In other Patriots news, Tom Brady said that he wants to play until 2022.
2022, which would make him 103 years old.
Yes.
Did you see his stat that they said? And Tom Brady just rushed. Not this was it this? No, it was last week. Just rushed for 1,000 yards in his career.
Is that right?
In his career,
In
that
18
little 4-yard run.
So wow, 18
Yeah.
seasons, 1,000 yards.
1,000 yards.
Let's do the math on that. So that's about.
He just became a 1,000-yard rusher.
Wow, so that's about 55 to 60 yards a season.
If that.
That's about 5 yards a game.
A game. Yeah.
5 yards a
need
game.
to.
Boy, no, of course not.
He
But
doesn't
still,
need to.
Tom terrific.
yeah.
He's got
It's
that
a 1,000-yard
golden
rusher.
arm.
1,000-yard rusher.
He can add that to his resume
for his
now.
season, for his career.
Yeah.
Tom Brady. That's amazing.
They're going to put that on his Hall of Fame
That's
stats.
utterly amazing. We mentioned Chris Carson. He might be out. We don't know what's going on with him. Keep an eye with the injury report with him. The big news in injuries this week. This is huge. AJ Green. AJ Green went to a foot specialist. Toe injury. Does not need surgery.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
Expected to miss games. We don't know how many games.
At least 2 games.
Yeah. Now I would say let's keep that at bay. You might see him in 2 weeks because again, it's kind of we're not sure what the injury is, but we don't know. You don't know what you're getting here. So, but
Reese doesn't need surgery.
Who do you say?
Yeah.
Who do you think benefits in Cincinnati from that the most? You
I
think
think
Tyler Boyd?
Tyler Boyd.
Or they got to be able to double him now.
Cesspool Uzomah.
I do too.
Absolutely. I think you want a tight end if he's on waivers. They listen,
So and there is John. Is it Ross?
John Ross.
Why do you think? What do you think?
Who?
He can't stay healthy.
He's their
Former,
number
yeah.
I know exactly. She laughed and she
She
said,
knows. Yeah. I don't trust him. He can't stay healthy. Listen.
He's got the
can't-
tools.
You can't ignore him because he's there.
And maybe if you got room, I would stash him depending on, because who knows, they can always come back and say, well, we can't really bring AJ back yet. I mean, those toe injuries are tricky.
Yeah.
My wife gets so frustrated with NFL players and the toe injuries, the turf toe. She said, I was a ballet dancer, and we would dance with bunions the size of your head on the sides of your toe and be on point.
Yeah.
They can't play with a toe injury?
Get it together, AJ Green. Get it together. That is what the dancer says.
Absolutely.
Get it together.
Should we play the Nutcracker?
I know. I guess so.
Yes.
But she'll be thrilled that I gave some of her advice out on the air.
would be.
AJ Green, we don't care about your toe injury.
No, we don't care.
Get back on the field.
Tape that bunion up. Tape it up.
Oh man, if they're listening to us, I hope they're not offended.
I did a radio show with a friend of mine. We used to go, and thank you, loyal listener. we had one listener. Because they didn't have anything else to do,
We know we've got 3 or 4.
At least
Yeah.
3 or 4.
You never know.
I can count them on one hand.
I probably just ran 2 of them off. So.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Are You F***ing Kidding Me?
Kenny!
Believe you said that.
Oh my gosh.
Can't believe you said kidding.
What family is it? For me, it's and this is. I don't even know what to say. I mean, go ahead, Christina. I'm gonna let Christina go first. Christina's gonna go.
Here's mine.
Christina's got. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so here's mine. My starting quarterback is Andrew Luck. I also drafted very late Stafford just in case, let me keep him just for my bye week. I waited to put him in. Of course, Luck was on his bye this week. I put in Matt. Good old Matty. He was ready. I'm like, yep, here we go. It's going to be great. At least going to get me, 20 points. Hopefully, more than that. He has the worst game of the season with 5 fantasy points. Are you f***ing kidding me?
He was on his back the whole game.
Right?
I just needed him for 1 week. That's it. That's all I kept him for.
Doesn't that suck?
Yeah.
Well,
and yours is pretty clear with
Tajay Sharp. I needed 6 points from him. He had 120 so yards receiving last week. Everybody, all these guys. Yeah, there's the chemistry that we've been looking for between him and Mariota. It's back and everything. And then he puts up a 0.5. Are you f***ing kidding me? I felt good.
That's it.
Doesn't it feel good? Yeah.
I was so frustrated.
Cathartic, right? Right. Here's mine, and this is not just for fantasy, but it's for the NFL. And it's for every place kicker in the NFL. Can you make a fucking kick?
You should have heard Bill just screaming. He goes, "What is going on? It was a 26-yard field goal." He missed.
Right?
And this is heartbreaking for me, for you, Kenny. Go ahead and tell the listeners.
Well, Brett Maher, obviously, last night. Now, I'm sitting at Monday's Dark Rehearsal. We're at the Space, by the way. We're always at the Space. The Space has been so kind to let us do this show.
That's great,
and the Space
too.
is host of Monday's Dark, and Mark Chinook. It's a great show, and I'm the musical director for the show. So I'm sitting at rehearsal yesterday. I'm finishing rehearsal, and what I do at 5 o'clock is I get the phone, and I have it on the side, and I see Brett Maher misses the first field goal. And I'm thinking to myself, that's going to cost me the league. I know it. It's going to cost me the league. And then Dak Prescott drives the field, doesn't get in the end zone. They don't get the extra point. I lose that by a point. But again, it's just in general. How many times has a kicker cost you a week this season?
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Not me, because I had Jake Elliott.
He stinks too.
No, he doesn't.
Well, look at that. Look, I love Tavecchio that's come in Atlanta. I mean, that kid came in the first week and went 5 for 5 for Matt Bryant. They're not in such a hurry to get Matt Bryant back.
So here's a good question. If Bryant comes back, do they let Bryant kick, or do they keep Tavecchio?
He hasn't missed one yet.
No, Tavecchio's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brian is 95 years old.
Yes. Yeah,
But
him
he's
and Ben
still-
Terrier,
Yeah.
they come on the field in wheelchairs.
They get up
It's like,
and they make
hang
the
on,
kick."
everybody, here comes Matt Bryant.
Right. Yeah.
But he's the lag. But he hurt himself kicking that 52-yard game, where the one that really iced the game for us a few weeks back. And
I mean, I saw Zerline miss a kick. Greg Zerline missing
Well,
kicks.
look what's
Like,
happening
come
in San
on.
Diego.
Justin Tucker missed that extra point.
San Diego's finally got him a quarter.
San Diego
kicker.
hasn't had a kicker in 15
Yeah.
years. How many kicks have San Diego? And we keep calling them the San Diego Chargers. They're the San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that's the official name.
Very confusing.
Right? But I mean, there's certain teams that cannot get a kicker. Ken's beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers are one of those teams that have screwed kickers up for decades. And they cut Matt Bryant, right? See, they get a good kicker and they cut him. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the Chargers are another team that cannot get a kicker to save their life. It's unbelievable.
Well, the guy they got now, Badgley?
Badgley is their new kicker.
Yeah, I think he's hit 8 or 10 in a row, something like that.
Yes, until the fourth quarter of the next game when they need a win.
they're
Or
just
until the
jinxed.
playoff game that they're going to play against the Patriots. And they have the game. They'll have the game. This is going to be in January, where they'll have the game won against the New England Patriots. They'll have it be down by a point with a 35-yard field goal, and it will go wide right.
Yeah.
And the Patriots will get lucky again.
Yeah,
Right?
it'll be because Belichick's over there with his hood up,
Yeah.
with his Darth Vader fingers up, and using the force to make the ball go wide left.
Yes, with the
unbelievable.
Chargers though, there's no force needed. It's called Chargers karma. That's what does it for the Chargers. So, and we have a new segment that we started last week. It is named after me because I am a classic overthinker. If people know, this is the classic Kenny Davidsen overthought of the week. Overthought of the week is, well, the San Francisco 49ers are on their third-string quarterback, Nick Mullins. So you know what I'm going to do this week in 3 leagues is I'm going to start the worst defense in football, the Oakland Raiders defense. Well, because it's a third-string quarterback. Nick Mullins is bound to throw an interception.
Of course.
But it's the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders have like 10 points on the season as a defense. And where they get me, -1. Right?
Yeah, you've been better not playing anybody.
Needless to say, I will not be playing the Oakland Raiders defense again.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yeah, you think? This is the thing. I stream defenses in every league, but the one thing you have to learn, like, you can't play the worst defense in football.
Yes.
You
Against
have
anybody.
to have, against anybody. You
Right.
have to have, like, you got to have some semblance of talent
Right.
on the team.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, my instinct actually was the opposite, and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
But I was going to pick up San Francisco against Oakland because
Right.
they just don't have any weapons. They traded away, Amari was It's just they don't have anybody. So I was going to pick up San Francisco, and at the last minute I thought,
Yeah, right?
it's probably not a great idea. And so I picked up Washington against Atlanta instead, and they did okay.
But San Francisco went off.
Yeah, San
they went
Francisco.
off against Oakland. Couldn't
and they're
believe
playing.
that.
They've got a good matchup this week. Who did we say they're playing? San Fran.
Which team is playing?
Who's San Francisco playing this
The
week?
San Francisco 49ers are
was-
playing
it
the
was a-
Giants. Yeah, they're playing the Giants. It's
Yeah,
a very
that's right. We're
interesting
talking
matchup
about,
for them. Yeah.
So I think that's
yeah.
a great defensive pick. No offense to you and the Giants, but I'm just.
No, not offense taken.
Not
The
offense
Giants,
taken.
Giants stink.
I mean, I would almost put anybody
admit
against
it.
the Falcons too, because the Falcon, Matt Ryan gets sacked 2 or 3 games. I mean, that's 3 or 4 points just in sacks.
It is. As a born and raised New Yorker, New York football, I tell you, it's not a proud scene.
Sorry.
New York. Not very at all. Yeah.
Sorry for your loss, Ken.
Yeah, whatever. Your team's not exactly wonderful either.
Oh,
Eagles this year.
we're gonna take this.
They're gonna win the division.
We're
because
gonna take
because
the
it's
division.
the NFC least this year.
Yes.
That's why they're gonna win.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, playing the Raiders this week. So look at defenses when you're streaming defenses that are playing the Raiders.
Yeah.
The San Diego Chargers of Los Angeles are playing the Raiders. Pick up the Chargers if you can find them. So there you go. And now, time for your song, Miss Shaw.
It's Wednesday night. Who should you choose? Make the right choice so you win, not lose. Starter sit, starter sit, starter sit.
All in the glissando. That's the whole thing. That's it. It's all.
Reminds me of the little.
We
Reminds me of
co-wrote that.
the little breaks in Saturday morning cartoon when I was a kid.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yes. So we got a few starter sets this week that we're going to talk about. So let's go with Christina first. What do you got?
I love it. All right, I have. Let me put on my glasses. Jeez, it's a glasses starter sit here. Okay, pick 2, and I know the first one's a given. Mike Davis, Jalen Richard,
Jalen Richard.
Jordan Howard, or Deion Lewis. Pick
PPR?
2. Yes, full point PPR.
Mike Davis, you have to wait on the Carson news. Like, if Carson's in, you don't play him. If he's out, you absolutely play him.
Okay.
I'm not sitting Deion Lewis right now. I wouldn't sit him. No, and they're playing the Patriots. I love Deion Lewis this
I do
week.
too.
And you know what? The one guy on the Oakland Raiders that you could probably play is Jalen Richard.
That's the only one I would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. And Howard's not a PPR guy because he doesn't catch passes. He's touchdown dependent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, look, if Howard gets in the end zone, you're gonna have a good week. But if Howard doesn't get in the end zone, he's
Yeah,
not
what
he's not even
I
gonna
what I
good.
look at, and I started him this week, and he did great for
Yeah.
me. But what I look at
touchdown.
is if they're playing a team where I think they're going to be up, you know, if they're playing somebody that I think they're going to be up pretty heavy, and then they're just going to hand the ball to Jordan Howard, let him be the workhorse, which is what happened this
And
week.
they're playing Detroit, who can't
So
stop anybody.
that's what
this
I mean.
week.
So
Oh, boy.
Jordan Howard,
I
I think might
know.
not be a bad. I think he'd be a pretty safe start this week.
You know, all right. So, well, Mike Davis, we said obviously that you're waiting on Carson news for that, but boy, man, that's not easy.
So if let's say Carson plays,
If Carson,
plays, Howard and Lewis.
yeah,
If Carson doesn't play,
Davis and Lewis.
Davis and Lewis.
Man, that's a tough one. You got 4 good options.
This
there.
is me all year.
Yeah.
I feel like I really feel like I would roll with Jordan Howard against Detroit.
Okay.
Just because I think they're going to be up.
You know, and Tennessee's playing New England. I think there's points in this game. I feel like Deion Lewis is going to do something this week. And he was great last night. He looked good.
He looked really good.
He looked really good last night.
Mike Davis is playing the Rams.
And Mike Davis, yeah.
The Rams are pathetic against
Yeah.
The Rams defense isn't as good as they seem on paper. I mean, I would probably not play Richard just because Richard is not like, even though we just talked about Richard, in this situation, Richard's role is unknown because he's all about, because what happens if you know, like Mars blows up into Jupiter and the Raiders are actually leading?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, then Richard doesn't play.
Yeah, they feed the
Right.
ball to Martin.
So then they feed Doug Martin. So
Well,
I would say you
he's
sit
like an
Richard.
Eckler. You know, it's similar
Yeah.
to that. I would think as far as playing them or not. It just depends on if they're up or not.
I think it's Howard and Lewis, and I think it's Howard and Davis if Carson's out.
Yeah, I do. I just feel like Howard's a good play there against that crappy defense. I think they're going to be up. I think Stafford's going to be on his back again the whole game.
Yeah.
You know, against the number 1 defense in the league. Come
Yeah.
on.
Oh, no,
I mean,
that Chicago defense is no joke.
Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack are going to
If
eat him
Khalil
up.
Mack plays, even if he doesn't play, they're still good. Yeah,
Well, they got
so
Akeem Hicks on the other side.
Oh,
It's just a
forget it.
freaking beast.
They're a beast. We have a start set question from Danielle in New Jersey, close to my home state, right across the river. Half point PPR. Isaiah Crowell or Wendell Smallwood? We just talked about Crowell.
But
See, what's the matchup there?
Well, Smallwood's against Dallas. Crowell is against the Bills. Is there a none of the above option?
Here's the thing.
Is there a possible? Yeah. Can you play none of the above and get more points?
Yeah.
Right.
Smallwood is leading the backfield in that team in carries by not much, but
not much.
he still is.
Yep.
He is the one.
And he's
getting
also
the
a
ball.
receiving back, so he's going to catch some passes out of the backfield a little
But now, what if Sproles plays?
If Sproles plays, if Sproles plays, it's hard to say. If Sproles plays,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with Crowell. If Sproles plays,
Even if Sproles is active, I don't think he's going to produce anything.
I think.
Again, he's ancient.
Yeah.
And he hasn't practiced in weeks and weeks and months. Do you really think he's going to be in shape for this game against a divisional?
I think if he starts, he's in shape. I would, and again, it's against Dallas. I think Sproles would actually be a good play this week.
Mm-hmm.
I do, because it's a division game against Dallas and they're home.
Yeah, they are home.
They are
Oh,
home.
jeez.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of options here. If it's only those two, I probably go Crowell and hold my nose and pray. But I'll tell you what I would do, Danielle. Look on waivers for Capri Bibbs if he's available.
Mm-hmm.
If Chris Thompson's out, Capri Bibbs is not great, but Washington's got all kinds of offensive line problems.
Mm-hmm.
I think AP is going to suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing Tampa, who can't stop you and me. You might get something out of Capri Bibbs. I'm trying to think of some other deep sleeper waiver wire pickups to play over those guys. But I mean, it's probably Crowell and hold your nose and pray.
I don't think I'd play Bibbs over Crowell though.
I might.
I
I hate
don't know.
Crowell. I'm not. I had one league where I had Crowell and I dropped him. I don't
What do you
want
think
to
about
deal with him.
Booker?
Well, he's not playing this week.
Oh, is he out
Booker,
this week?
Booker would be a great play. He'd be a great play, but they're on
realize
bye. Denver's on bye.
Oh,
this
that's
week.
right. Denver is on
Yeah,
bye.
so Booker would have been a great play.
Yeah.
But he's on bye. Even Cordarrelle Patterson, but we don't know what he's
Well, it
gonna
depends,
be.
but if Michelle comes back, which he is, it sounds like, then
then he's
then they
not
got James
viable.
White, and him and James White are going to carry the backfields.
Yeah.
And that brings me to our next starter sit for my friend Eric, who has this problem every week. James White or Connor.
Trade one of them.
Heck yeah, man!
If
'Cause
you
he has
have to
Kamara.
sit one of those guys, trade one of them.
Yeah.
That's something else. God,
You
I wish I
gotta
had that
trade one of
problem.
them. You can't put one of those guys on your bench every week. You can get help at wide receiver.
Yeah.
Right?
Without a doubt.
If Michelle's back, I'm playing Connor. And
Yeah,
Connor's
I
got a bad
agree.
matchup against Carolina. I'm still playing Connor.
I agree.
I play Connor no matter what.
Yeah. Connor's getting 30 carries.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Last
such
week,
a rarity in
last
the
week
NFL.
he sat Connor to play White.
And White was better.
Right.
Well, no, but they both got 25
They
points,
both
yeah.
got the same amount
I
of
would
points.
like to know who else he's got in the backfield on his lineup that he's
I
playing
know.
in
Well,
place
he's
of
got
them.
Kamara. And,
Oh, my
and,
God.
And,
He's got
at the two, he can only start two running backs.
Oh, wow.
So he's got this problem every week. He's got to trade one of them.
Yeah, is that good grief? How did he end up? I want to
He's
draft.
got
with
first
who,
of all-
Mike Evans,
I want to draft with who he's drafting.
Marvin
Yeah.
Jones, Greg Olson. I think this might be the team. Actually, no, it's not because he doesn't have Kamara. This is
I'll say
the
this.
team.
If you were in a league where you can only start two running backs and you don't have a flex, get out of that league.
Yeah.
Oh, so I
That's a
should get
crap.
out of our league then?
We have a flex. What are you talking about?
What was it? Don't we have a league where there's no flex in it?
Oh, there's a flex.
What am I thinking of?
We have a league where we don't have the tight end in the flex.
Oh,
that was
that's
a
what I was
mistake.
talking about.
That's a mistake I made before the year. I
That's what I'm
didn't
talking
add
about.
the tight end to the flex.
And we're,
Yeah,
we're playing in
yeah.
one league. It's really tough that where you have to play three wide receivers, and that's a difficult.
Oh
league.
man, that's tough.
That
yeah.
that puts the first year I played in that league, I did horrible because I just couldn't wrap my brain around having to play three receivers. That's
Right.
unusual. And,
That's
I
becoming-
have 3 receivers
yeah.
in
There are a
ESPN.
couple leagues like
Tough.
that. Yeah.
And a flex. 3 receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex that you can start, tight end.
Yeah, I got a 3-receiver super flex league where I'm now going to be starting Adams and Valdez-Scantling every week, which is a little scary. I don't like starting 2 wide receivers from the same team, but I don't have a choice.
Hey, well,
it's
you
those
know-
2 and T.Y. Hilton, and then I got Skank on my bench.
I
so
mean-
that's it. So
I did it when Tate and
well, I
Galladay.
was starting AJ Green and Tyler Boyd in one of my leagues. And
Right, and Christina was doing Tate and Galladay
Yeah.
for London. Now Tate and Galladay are on opposite teams, so there you go.
Right, but in the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, both of them were producing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it never like for a while I was benching Boyd, and because I was playing AJ Green, I had Boyd on my bench because I have AJ Green, Michael Thomas, and T.Y. Hilton.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I mean, that's a horrible problem to
It
have.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be a little weary with Tyler Boyd. I know everybody's going to love Tyler Boyd, and I know they're playing the Saints.
They're going to double him.
That's the thing. We've seen this when you lose the big receiver. We saw this with Detroit with Tate, and then, all of a sudden Galladay and Jones do nothing.
Yep.
Be weary with Tyler Boyd because they're going to double him.
Yep, that's what I've been scared
and
of.
the Saints corners are no joke. So, and and what was your starting sit?
What's that?
Well, you had a starting sit, didn't you? That you were going to talk about? Who do you want to do for start sit this week?
Oh, like who I would
you had a question mark about who to start and sit.
Yes, I did. And I'm going to bring it up right now.
Well,
okay.
It was about the
I've got
Baltimore quarterbacks.
Yeah,
stuff,
okay,
right?
yeah. So I'm in a 2-quarterback league where you play team quarterbacks. Okay,
right.
I have Baltimore's quarterback. So when Lamar Jackson comes in and runs, I get points for that. So Brady's my New England quarterback. Brady, and that's my other quarterback. And,
right.
And I've got Baltimore. So do I dump Flacco and pick up, and here's my choices at quarterback that I can get. And Kenny and I were going with the choice. Here's my lineup. Okay, I've got Brady, question mark at second quarterback, James White, Adrian Peterson, Marlon Mack, Kerryon Johnson, Alshon Jeffrey, Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham Jr., O.J. Howard, Redskins D.
Gee, that's a great team. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm thinking that's the one Tajay Sharp screwed me in last week. Anyway, and so my options is Elijah McGuire. What I'm thinking is I dump Flacco and pick up another quarterback, and I'll show you the quarterback choices. Or I can leave Flacco on the bench and start Elijah McGuire, Christian Kirk, or Vance McDonald.
Well, I want a quarterback.
So I need a quarterback.
Yeah.
So let me give you all the choices on the waiver wire of the quarterbacks that I have to choose from, and I dump Flacco. I think I could safely dump Flacco, play a quarterback, and probably get Flacco back the next week if I wanted, because nobody's going to pick him up off waivers. So here are the choices. Okay, I got the choice between Bortles, Alex Smith, Dolphins quarterback, Giants, Eli, or Mariota.
Well,
Alex Smith is a good pick this week.
That's
you
the
think?
pick. Yeah, because they're playing Tampa.
Because they're playing Tampa.
I looked at that, but and I was either thinking him or I'm thinking Mariota against New England, because I think it's going to have to be a pretty high-scoring game.
And he looked good last night.
And he looked good last night, but
Yeah.
again, the week before he looked horrible. I just can't do Eli out as much as I'd like to.
No, as good as their matchup is.
It's a great matchup. If they could just protect him, though. I mean, they can't even.
They can't.
And I only need it for 1 week.
You're right, though. I think Alex Smith.
You think?
Yeah.
Worst defense in the history of football.
Spoken by a true Bucks fan. Worst defense in the history of football.
34.3 points.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Alex
I mean,
Smith.
Washington's offense is nothing great.
They've got in their offensive line that was just
They're
decimated.
bad, but it's still. But it can't. But Tampa Bay can't get to the quarterback.
Yeah.
So it might be.
Well, they might this week. Atlanta got to the.
Right. So there you go.
They don't try to get to the
So so I think it's Alex Smith.
Yeah, I was surprised when yeah. So well, I think I'll take your advice, and then at least I have somebody to blame.
That's what it is. I gave Ken Volke advice to start Derek Carr in a week where you got like 5 points, and I heard about it. So there you go. Yeah. So, hey, crappy fantasy advice for free? Come talk to this show. Listen to our show. We'll give that to you. No problem.
It's not crappy. It's
It's free. So yes. And by the way, so most Yahoo leagues are having their trade deadline on Saturday. So keep that in mind. The leagues that I set up, I make the trade deadline 1 week later because I think week 10 is too early. Yep. But this is the week. If you listen, people. I know a lot of players that just don't trade, and it's just like, dude, you can improve your team. You're trying to improve your team. Just if you have to look at every outlet you can possibly do to improve your team.
Like I said, I ended up trading Melvin Gordon to get Antonio Brown because I had. Like this guy, like your friend, this guy.
Tom. Yeah.
Got a couple of good. I mean, my running backs in that league were serviceable. I had McCaffrey, I had Marlon Mack, Adrian Peterson, Kerryon Johnson. But after as far as receivers, I mean, I was just like nobody.
Yeah.
And so I ended up letting him go, and it improved my team.
I'm looking to make a trade in that league because my running backs in that league are Sony Michel, Saquon Barkley.
Is that the?
This is Lissa's league.
Yeah.
Sony Michel, Saquon Barkley, Dalvin Cook, Kenyon Drake, and Mark Ingram.
Yeah, you're pretty loaded.
I'm loaded, so I want to make a trade because my wide receivers, I have Julio and I have who's my other big wide receiver on that team. Brandon Cooks is good. But after that, I could use a third wide receiver on that team. So,
There you go.
So we're going a little over this week, but it's because we have Mr. Bucky Heard in studio.
Love it.
And he talks a lot.
And,
so-
We all talk a lot. This is
We all
why
talk a
we
lot.
have a
Information for
podcast.
the people.
Yes.
Information for the people.
Live.
So, and but we are definitely coming to a close on the week 10 edition, and it is time for the fantasy burial. And this week, we bury classical musician Mozart. Oh no, sorry, Raheem Mozart from the San Francisco 49ers. Dearly beloved, we're gathered here today to celebrate the life, the very short life. Fantasy football life, mind you. He's still alive. He's not dead, but he's dead in fantasy football. The very short fantasy football life of Raheem Mozart. Is it Mostert? It's Mostert, isn't it? It's not Mozart.
Mozart.
It's Mozart of the San Francisco 49ers. And I was always a Beethoven guy over Mozart anyway, but that's just me. So But Raheem had a chance. He was going to be the guy in San Francisco.
A world of never-ending depression.
It didn't happen. Dearly beloved, it might be time for a Miradula in San Francisco, but we bury on a freak injury Raheem Mozart. May he, in fantasy football, rest in peace. I went major on the last chord here. Yeah.
Put the little tag on it.
Nice, very good. I know, that's sad. I feel bad for the guy because he was getting a chance there, and he broke his arm on a really freak play.
As we say down south, bless his heart.
Bless his heart. Yeah.
Bless his old heart.
Bless his heart.
So so you got Breida, and you got, just real quick, who's going to come up and as a number 3 there?
That's the thing. They don't have another number 3.
So
Do
they have anybody on the roster that they could bring up from the taxi squad?
They
or anything?
sign people off the street.
That's sneaky.
Right? I mean, who was Mike James?
Are they talking
Remember
to
Mike James got a
Yeah.
You don't know who they're gonna get. That's why I'm speculating.
Are they talking? You haven't heard any rumors or anything. You're just
Abdullah got cut like 2 hours ago.
That's a pretty good. That's very insightful. That they would be crazy not to look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they'll give him a look. But yeah, right now we don't know who it's gonna be. They may only play two running backs this week, and but Morris is done.
And look, I haven't talked about my Falcons at all, really.
Oh, talk about your
But I just
Falcons.
want to really quickly say how impressed I am with Ito Smith.
I was going to ask you, Ito Smith.
I told at the beginning of the year, I think we drafted him in the 6th or 7th round. Chado Chosinko made a comment on Twitter that I know, but he made a comment on Twitter that he thinks that Ito Smith was probably could possibly be the best running back in the draft as far as one of those guys that were under the radar. If you look at his highlight reel, and I showed Bill at the beginning of the year because I was very excited that we got this kid from Southern Miss. You see a highlight reel and there's 1 or 2 good plays. This is in 1 year, and he breaks long run after long run, and he's like a little pinball in there. And he runs hard, and he's not a very big guy, and he catches the ball in the backfield. And for a rookie, his pass blocking skills have been outstanding. Matt had time to throw the ball, and he's a great compliment to Tevin Coleman. So the rumor's been we're going to get rid of Tevin Coleman. I think, as a diehard Falcon fan, it's time for Devontae Freeman, us to part ways with Devontae Freeman, to take that money and to help out our defense a little bit.
I like it.
So Ito
I think
Smith long term is.
I think so. And you know that Ito Smith, where he got his name?
Yeah.
And you got to look it up online. It's hysterical. It's his nickname, and he got it because when he was born, his parents thought he looked like Judge Ito. And if you look at his baby picture, look him up. It'll show his baby. And Judge Ito commented that he was honored to be named after him.
So cute.
That's amazing. So now you played me something you did in Branson. He was doing. Bucky did a fantasy show.
Oh, the
and he had
Bucks
something
Bombs.
called Bucks Bombs.
Yeah.
Can you give me a Buck Bomb about Ito Smith quickly?
Ito Smith?
Off the top. Can
Off
you
the
do it?
top.
That's it.
Okay. Good afternoon, all you crazy, kooky fantasy football fake freaks out there in fantasy land. It's time for Bucks Bombs. It's time to discuss those players that are going to sink or swim, thrive or die. And here's who I'm talking about. Ito Smith. Is he going to be good? Is he going to succeed? Can he help your fantasy team get to the finish line? Well, anybody that was named after Judge Ito surely can make good decisions, and that guy seems to know where to cut, where to weave, where to bob, where to find the end zone. And it's a great handcuff, not only to Tevin Coleman, but to that entire Falcons offense. I think he can put up 60 to 70 yards plus 3 receptions and a score this week. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Buck's Bombs for this week. And Buck out.
Hey!
Ito Smith. Ito Smith. Will he be the running back of the Falcons? Will he send O.J. Simpson to jail? Find out.
Thrive or die, baby.
That's amazing. Bucky Heard of the Righteous Brothers, he and Bill Medley, they've been gracious to my show. Also, Bill sang on my show a couple years ago. He came up, he actually sang, "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" on my show.
Aww.
We loved it.
Friday night. That was amazing.
Wow.
But Bucky's hosted my show on a Friday. It was one of my favorite nights we ever
Oh,
did.
man,
we did Van Halen's Right Now on my show with John Wiedemeyer.
Brought in
guitar,
Wiedemeyer.
bass player,
Oh,
and let me tell you,
Wiedemeyer.
that was a night.
love
But it was so
you.
much fun, too. We had Stephanie
Yeah.
Calvert. We had
We
Amy
did.
Sung. We did some Black Crows.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that again. Actually,
when you move here,
we've
we're
been
gonna do
looking around at houses, and
Yeah.
I don't know if Vegas could stand having me here full time.
Oh, we can stand it. And Bucky's one of the best singers on the planet,
Well,
and
God
we are
bless you,
thrilled to
brother.
have you
Thank you.
here.
Thank
Go
you,
see
man.
if you come to Vegas, go see the Righteous Brothers.
It's a 6 o'clock show too.
It's a 6 o'clock show. It's a nice early show.
Yep.
For,
we
for
call it
Bucky
the early
and Bill.
bird show. You can get a steak at 4:30, show at 6, you're in bed by 8. It works
Bam.
out.
There you go.
And done.
And you get the Righteous Brothers, which is great music, and they do all kinds of covers and do all kinds of stuff. It's a great
Great show. Yeah.
It's classic Vegas. That's what I tell folks. 4 horns, 3 girl singers,
Yep.
and one of the classic showrooms on our left here on
Yep.
the 3rd floor at Harrah's, and it's just got that old school feel, man.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
great
So
live
thanks
music.
for coming. I hope you
Thank
do
you.
this again.
Oh, I love it,
Thank
man.
you so much,
I'm going to
Bucky.
be knocking on the door every week. Hey, can I come in, guys?
Oh,
That's it.
yay.
Talk some more
We-
football.
We would love that.
It
We
was
know
so
we love it.
Great,
And so if you go to Spotify, type in Our Vegas Fantasy, and you can download our show. And what's the website we're on?
Also, Instagram, Our Vegas Fantasy, as well as Twitter. Please send us your start or sit questions. Also, your comments. We love to hear about your comments about our show. And if you're listening, we would love to hear.
And for Bucky Heard, I'm Kenny Davidsen.
And I'm Christina Shaw.
There you go.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you.
Yay.
Good
Bye,
luck
guys.
this week, man.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.